Good morning. Yeah. After listening this speaker this morning, I think microfinance ecosystem is at present going through a paradox kind of situation. In the sense that on the one side, we are talking about having a customer-centric approach, having a human touch to the kind of activities which we are engaged into, uh, trying to reach out to the people, have a social developmental kind of approach in our mindset. But on the another hand, we are talking about IPOs. We are talking about investors investing in our microfinance activities. There are so many stakeholders, and their basic intention of investment is maximization of their wealth. So don't you think that both these concepts are contradictory to each other?
That's a great question. But we're going to take 2 or 3 questions. That's a wonderful question. Yes.
Yeah, stand up.
That's a challenge. Standing up's a high-risk proposition.
Okay. There are 2 questions. One question is for Mr. Bob. Will this DFS can be a solution for providing financial services to the migrant laborers? Because this is the segment which has been neglected over a period of time. Whether this DFS can be a solution, just I would like to have your views on this point. And the other question is for Madam. Very interesting topic on empathy, really, because a lot of insights you have given, rules of thumb, 6 thumb rules you have mentioned. Really, it was very, very interesting to hear. And just I would like to have your views, whether such thumb rules have been implemented by any such institutions. What is the progress? Because you are telling for the last 10 years, you are still telling, and even today also you are reiterating the same thumb rules. Whether any institutions are following, what is the progress? Just I want to.
Perfect.
Thank you.
One more over here. Anyone over
Hello. Yes, I'm Kweku Bechi from Ghana.
Okay.
How do we merge the human feel and human touch with digital financial services where it's about data points and algorithms?
These are great questions. It's a good thing that I think this is the 4th day of the program, right? So we can keep coming back to these questions because they lie at the heart of trying to understand client centricity and how it plays out in actual products and our work. So why don't we, Dara, you want to take a couple of
Sure.
those?
Yep. So let me maybe speak first to the IPOs and investors. If you have client centricity is synonymous with profitability. There's no reason why it shouldn't be, right? If you look at global companies, what they are trying to do is understand their client better and better. I think a big part of what we need to remove from the equation at this point is assuming that if you're a social business, you need to somehow give something to the client for free. It's good business to listen to your clients. It's good business to create a structure whereby you can understand your clients. You have knowledge within your institutions, you have data within your institutions that I would love to get my hands on. So how can you exploit that knowledge and that understanding to provide to clients that much better? No impact investor worth their salt would argue with that. Now, a more general mainstream investor might, which is one of the reasons why I think you have to be very careful with your investor base. And as Bob mentioned earlier, you have to be careful with the amount of flows that are coming into your institutions. You have to be sure that you're not going to give up your main business proposition just for the investment flows. So if you have an impact investor that's also going to serve on your board, really making sure that they add value and are not going to bring you away from your main mission is going to be really, really critical. Otherwise, you're giving away your core advantage. So again, your understanding of your clients, where the fact that you've been working with this segment for so long, a lot longer than your competitors, and therefore you have more data points. You have more experience on this segment than a larger bank or than an M&O or an aggregator. That is your core advantage, and you need to exploit it. The question about migrants, actually, if I can jump in there as well, we're starting to do quite a lot of work on migrants and internal migrants by choice, and also displaced people and refugees. One of the issues that we're most concerned about as BFA, we do quite a lot of work on digital identity, on both policy and the technical aspects of digital identity. One of the things that we're most concerned about, which we think is holding up a lot of what is happening in the migrant situation, is an identity. And again, if you go back to this focus on empathy, your identity is sometimes the only thing that you really have. Yet, oftentimes, to be a refugee, you need to give up your identity at different border crossings. You need to assume a different identity. You can't always be the same person in order to go from one place to another. So the innovations that are happening with digital ID within various countries, and the more that we can get on a similar type of platform between countries, is really a huge part of the engine that will make your jobs much easier. And it's something that policymakers and innovators really need to come into, both hand in hand. There was a question on progress and research and what has been happening with a lot of the research that we've done over the time. So the financial diaries research, we've now done research in 10 different countries. I think most of the impact that we've really had probably comes from the Kenyan financial diaries, but there was a lot of effort put into really making sure that financial institutions better understood the low-income customer there. But I've been surprised for how, for example, we did financial diaries in India for ICICI. Again, very large bank, very difficult to understand their consumer because they're so huge and bureaucratic, frankly. I didn't realize, but we actually gave them some of the data on a spreadsheet. That has turned into a credit product. So the data has been actually much more important for creating products than necessarily the stories in the books and the publications. We're going to be releasing all of our financial diaries data on the Eye2Eye platform, which is run by Sentry. And I actually think that if we can make this data available and you can see the sizes of the cash flows and the patterns of the cash flows, you can actually design a better product around that. And the more that we share that data, the better. And the last question is, how do you get this human side of digital financial services? Well, on the one hand, a lot of the behavior is found in the data. One thing that we've done at BFA is to categorize different types of savings that you see in the transactional data. If you could look at your transactional data, especially if you have a very voluntary savings account or some sort of voluntary account, and you could say, all right, well, what different types of savings is there? When does savings become savings? If you save, leave money in the account for just one day, do you have to leave it in for a week or a month? What type of savings patterns do people exhibit? Because that's very similar to how they might save in informal products. So if you see an account that people are just moving money in and out of very quickly, that's equivalent to saving in the house, because that's how people use it. They don't usually save for a long time in the house. They use the house as a transactional account. If you have people who save for longer and leave a bunch of money in an account, that's a much more profitable account. So I think that there's a marrying of the empathy with the data analysis. There's also, at the end of the day, there's a human at the end of that phone. And how they use that phone and what that phone means to them and what type of experience they have with that is really important. We've started to work in Tanzania on a digital savings group, which it really doesn't matter that it's a digital savings group on the phone. What matters is that most of the people in that savings group are women. Women don't do a lot of different transactions. They just receive money and then they pull it out from the agent. How do you get women using different use cases and how do you get them to feel confident? How do you get them to feel that that's a thing that they can do? And how do you actually use the power of the group to help move women up to digital confidence?